and welcome to Realty Buzz. This is Mansi Dave and let's take a look at the top happenings on the real estate sector. The first news says housing finance stock rally on subsidies, but valuations already steep. The demand affordable housing is driving the valuation of these stocks. Mortgage penetration to GDP remains low for India against developing markets. Hunters have driven up the stocks of medium and small housing finance companies after the Union Cabinet cleared the Housing for All by 2022 plan. More importantly, the proposal also promotes affordable housing for weaker sections through credit-linked subsidies. Stocks of medium and small housing finance companies that have rallied include LIC Housing Finance Limited, Diwan Housing Finance Corporation Limited, Repco Home Finance Limited, Can Finance Homes Limited, and Growth Finance Limited. Given the run-up, the valuations of some of these companies such as Repco and Grah Finance are already very steep at a price to book of 4.3 times and 9.5 times respectively from financial year 16, discounting 20% plus earnings growth. Analysts say the demand for affordable housing is driving the valuation of these stocks as mortgage penetration to gross domestic product remains low at 8% for India compared with other developing markets. They also point out that the government scheme is too ambitious and supply-side issues need to be resolved first. The government has announced credit-linked subsidy of 6.5% on housing loans up to tenure of 15 years. But the past experience with a 5% annual credit subsidy scheme has been unsatisfactory, primarily because it required certification from state governments, which tends to be a constraint. Kotak Institutional Research in a note dated 18 June says it is challenging to assess income in the economically weaker section segment in many cases. The borrower may not have appropriate income documentation. Supply-side issues such as availability of land need to be resolved and government needs to expedite approvals. Construction of affordable homes has not increased as approvals take a long time to get. Projects are launched but they are still waiting for necessary approvals, said Harshal Mehta, Chief Executive at DHFL. Around two-thirds of DHFL's loan portfolio is in the affordable housing segment. For the scheme to work, the government needs to enlist participation of private developers through incentives and subsidies. Large developers need to change their business models to generate volumes at low price. Also, there needs to be cooperation by the central and state governments. Kotak Institutional Research points out there was a strong takeoff for the 1% interest subvention scheme as it did not require government approval or income certification. Nevertheless, the management of housing finance companies remain bullish on loan growth, which is discounted in the valuation of these stocks. Repco, which has significant exposure to affordable housing and experience in underwriting loans to the self-employed, expects at least 25% loan growth to be sustainable in the medium term. The DHFL management is positive about maintaining steady growth in assets under management. In financial year 2015, its assets under management grew 27% against the previous year. Loans to the low-income group are going to be the key drivers for disbursement. But for the momentum in these stocks to be sustained, implementation of the government housing scheme and supply of affordable homes remain key. Well, the next news on board says private equity firms prefer debt deals in slowdown. Hits realty market of Chennai. Chennai-based landmark housing project last week got on board Mumbai-based Milestone Capital. The 80 crore debt deal is a 4-acre residential project on Chennai's cross corridor, Old Mahabalipuram Road, at the project cost of 500 crore. Private equity investors are increasingly relying on debt deals, with real estate players as home sales slow in the Chennai property market. The company in February also roped in Edelweiss's NBFC unit in a 220 crore deal for a 14-acre project of Perambar, a Chennai suburb. The two landmark housing deals, TransCorp also handled the private equity transaction from another developer, True Value Homes, which got a 100 crore deal from HDFC Property Fund in May this year. The agreement entails an interest rate of about 18% to be paid by the developer over principal repayment. There is also an upside sharing clause, which is to help the investor get a share of higher earnings should the property appreciate in valuation. Against this, a pure equity transaction means the investor gets a portion of the developer's share and can exit the deal by selling them off. Developers and real estate market observers point to supply overhang and slow home buying activity as reasons. Well, the next news says spate of equity raising signals confidence in realty sector. Let's understand this in detail. The property sector witnessed two capital raising announcements by Mumbai developers over the weekend. Oberoi and Ibril approved plans to raise equity capital to fund the company's growth plans. These announcements imply improving confidence in the market outlook. The Mumbai residential market has already seen an uptrend in pre-sales and is our preferred market. Given the segment pent-up demand the revival in launch activity after almost 5 years. Separately, reports suggest Shapurji Pallonji has sold its ID park in Chennai for Rs 1,400 crore to Canada Pension Plan Investment World. Airports and hotels in India have the smartest building overall. Average smart building scores to 49 and 41 respectively. The next news talks about a survey with respect to smart building technology. The Honeywell survey shows need for more investment in smart building technology. While the country's airports and hotels are leading the way with smart building technologies, the survey found that in general, the smartness of buildings in India is low. Government of India, building owners and service providers across the country need to invest more in smart building technologies to better serve India's rapidly urbanizing population and help create sustainable cities and infrastructure, showed a survey of 2,000 buildings across India by Honeywell and research specialist IMRV International. While the country's airports and hotels are leading the way with smart building technologies, the survey found that in general the smartness of building in India is low. The 2,000 buildings participating in the survey covered 10 key building verticals: airports, hotels, hospitals, private offices, retail, surface transport, government offices, education and social spaces, public services and residential. These buildings are located in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Pune and Mumbai. This survey marks the debut of the new Honeywell Smart Building Score TM, a tool that evaluates buildings based on each facility's use of technologies to make the building green, safe and productive. 3 key aspects of smart building. The Indian government's 100 Smart Cities plan is a forward-looking initiative that aims to improve quality of life and make the country a smarter place to live. India could save billions each year by incorporating modern technologies in buildings that drive green, safe and productive outcomes, said Anant Maheshwari, President Honeywell India. However, smart building technologies are still new to India and adopted primarily by large commercial buildings. With the promise of the Government of India's 100 Smart Cities initiative, it was imperative to create a tool for assessing the smartness of buildings and establish an industry benchmark. Coming on to the key findings of the survey. In general, the smartness of buildings in India is low. On a scale of 1 to 100, the national average Honeywell Smart Building Score TM for these buildings is only 33. Airports and hotels in India have the smartest building overall. Average smart building scores to 49 and 41 respectively. Scoring the lowest were building in the education 27 and residential 26 categories. Most buildings in the survey score highest on green elements, potentially reflecting the focus on sustainability from leading global and Indian rating agencies, as well as government incentives to improve building sustainability and energy efficiency. Safety scores of buildings on average were very low, at 21, highlighting potential risks and the need for greater investment in safety and security solutions. The lowest rated aspect of building in the survey was the safety and personal protection of workers who service and maintain these buildings at age. Both private 34 and public 29 buildings have similarly overall scores, indicating opportunities and needs exist for both these sectors. Bangalore has invested the most in smart buildings, 57%, potentially owing to newer construction, while Mumbai can do more, which is at present 36%. These percentages denote asset capability only and not asset coverage or asset uptime. And the next news on board says Birla Financial Services enters Realty space. Birla Financial Services Private Limited, a fully owned subsidiary of Yash Birla Group, has launched Birla Homes. With this launch, the company has announced its foray into the real estate market in Bangalore through the strategic brand alliances model. For its real estate venture, Birla Homes will get into strategic business alliances with real estate developers, builders and land aggregators. So that is all for this episode of Realty Buzz. We will be back with more on this. Till then, goodbye, take care and keep watching Spin TV.